My name is Philip Stiles. I work at Cambridge University in the UK, and I've worked there for several years. I run a centre in Cambridge called the Centre for International Human Resource Management. So we're working a lot in this space, and I've also worked with IADC for several years, often coming over to talk about things around human resources and change and people and culture. So it's great that we're running this program together. And maybe I'll just give you a short outline of what we'll try and cover in the seminar. I'd imagine most people on the call are HR professionals or intending to be HR professionals. And I think HR professionals have a lot on their minds right now, I think, not only in terms of current activity, but also thinking about the future. And I think in our seminar together, I'd like to think about three things, really. I think first thing is to think about HR trends. And there are lots of trends in the literature and in consulting, and looking at how people issues are changing. And I think a couple of things from the trends we'll talk about. One is, I think, about talent. So what is the current talent, and also what is the future talent? How do we get it? How do we keep it? So we'll talk a bit about talent. Second thing I think we'll talk about with trends is about skills. So I'm sure many of you on the call are thinking about what skills do we need in the next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years. And there's some interesting material, interesting research about what skills are required for the future for most organizations. So let's talk about that and what you might need and what other companies are doing. I think the third thing, I guess, is about issues around hybrid and new technology. If you look at, say, some of the recent research or recent surveys, for example, from Deloitte or from Gartner, they talk a lot about the impact of AI, generative AI. What will that mean for the future, particularly the future for human resources? So we'll see what companies are doing in that space. And last but not least on the trends, generations. So I'm sure in your organizations, maybe there might be 3, 4, maybe even 5 generations. And what do younger generations want or need, and how is your organization set up for that? We'll talk about that too. So that's the first thing. We'll talk about trends. Second thing we'll talk about is about human resource practices. And we'll take 3 practices in particular. One is about talent. So we'll look at, for example, how we mix talent together to get high performance. And again, see some examples of companies, how they do that. The second thing we'll look at is about performance itself, performance management. So we'll look at issues about motivation, opportunity, ability, those big topics. And again, how those topics are changing, what the research is telling us is now not only current, but also what's happening in the future. And the third topic in the issue about practices is around the issue of development. So what kind of careers are we offering people to try and keep them? Can we offer the same kind of careers that we've always done? Are we doing development in the same way or in a different way? So we'll take a look at those issues too. That's the second piece. So the second piece is about human resource practices. And the third piece will be about the human resource department. So we'll say a few words about, what does it mean to be an HR leader? And I think there's a lot of thought going into this particular area. So we do a lot of work with companies in Cambridge and around Europe and around the world, particularly with their HR department and their HR leaders, and looking at the kind of models they're trying to introduce to try and bring their organization into the next generation. And what we'll do is just see what some of those models are. Some of you may be operating with a kind of Dave Ulrich kind of model or a kind of standard model of HR. And also in terms of your leadership skills, what kind of leadership skills do you need to take it, for the next 5, 10, 15 years? So for example, one small example, when you think about the rise of generative AI, how will that make the HR department and the HR leadership more influential or less influential? Some people think it would make them more influential. And I think that's true. I think that's true. Some people are skeptical about that. So we'll have a debate about whether you feel, where that's headed and other things too with that. So for my session, so those three things really. Number one, HR trends, that the big trends that are seen across different sectors. Number two, about HR practices, the talent, performance management, development. And the third thing about the HR department, what do HR leaders need to take the organization forward into the future? What we'll do for the learning methods, we'll have some cases, some films, we'll have some breakout rooms. The most important, I think, is to share with you the research with some cases, but also to make sure we get everyone's input because you all have experience of this. So we'll have some breakouts and plenary sessions and a nice mix of things, I hope, so we get the most out of all of our thoughts.